So, Mo, I want to start off this space heater by asking you a quick question.
Sure, go ahead, Mike.
How much does the internet suck?
On a scale of 1 to 10, infinity.
Okay. And now you told me this yesterday.
Correct.
And do you want me to update Geoff and Kevin on this story, or do you want to tell the story?
It's kind of a spoiler, so I don't want to spoil for them, but a certain thing happened yesterday in the world that was kind of dramatic that everyone should know about. But so I went on Twitter to hear other people's take on the news that came down, and I happened to stumble upon some spoilers for a new live action Netflix show that came out, and I don't want to say anything more than that.
Yeah, maybe that's a roundabout version. Do you want me to?
That's pretty vague.
Oh,
stop being a cock teasing.
I know we're trying to avoid spoilers, but you basically said like, yeah, this thing happened about a thing.
Oh, because you're what are you spoiling? First of all,
I mean, then that'd be spoiling the thing, right?
Mo, stop cock teasing the rhino and tell us.
Okay, so I'll do the plain English version of the story. Mo just said he was looking for like Twitter reaction to the Kyle Rittenhouse verdict, and instead he kept finding spoilers to the Cowboy Bebop live action. that's the plain English version of the story.
With the same search terms?
I mean, I'm sorry. I just was looking through the timeline, and people just, they don't have any. Let's just say this: there was a greater than normal dislike for this live action. I mean, I kind of assumed that there might be some hatred for it, but god damn, people really did not like this show.
It's all the people our age that have fond memories of Cowboy Bebop and are pretty much geared to be overly critical of this. Although, to be fair, yeah, I haven't heard the greatest reception either.
It sucks because, like what more could they have done? Like, I've only seen the first 3 episodes, so I'm not gonna comment on what happens in later episodes. But
well, we can just give a possible spoiler alert to this whole conversation, because there is some of that, I guess, because we can't really have this conversation without talking about what we've seen. All three of us, me, Geoff, Mo, we've seen the first 3 episodes of the live action as we're recording this. Kevin has seen nothing.
I've seen those 2 trailers, and I've seen a couple of clips, and that's about it.
Okay, and that's fine. Okay, well, go ahead, Mo. What do you want to say?
I was just gonna say, like, there's not really that much spoilers in the first 3 episodes. Nothing major happens. Characters get introduced. If you were to watch the first episode alone and watch the first episode of the anime, it's almost a shot for shot. They ham-fist Faye Valentine in there because it's only a 10-episode show, so time is kind of the essence. But
I wouldn't say it's shot for shot because there's the whole first opening scene that lasts about 10 minutes or whatever it is.
True. But that's kind of just a reaction to the 3rd episode of the anime, anyways, right?
That's more like that first scene is the first scene of another thing in the Cowboy Bebop universe, basically, right? We did give the spoiler alert. It's another take on essentially the opening of the movie.
Okay, because there is that bit at the end credits where it says this is based off of Cowboy Bebop the anime and Cowboy Bebop the movie. So that's
true,
right? So there's that, and well, I mean, we can go a bunch of different ways. Needless to say, yeah, the reaction to the show is at best mixed. But it is critical. It is certain, like the naysayers certainly had a field day with this.
I feel bad because there's so many other shows in the pipeline for Netflix. Are we gonna get this kind of reaction for the One Piece adaptation?
Hell yes.
Yes. Rightfully or wrongfully, but nonetheless, as I like to say.
Right, but
people are already criticizing the cast that got leaked.
I mean, it's not a good. It's not good. Like, then what's the point of making it? You know, if everyone's gonna react this way to it, what's the point of making it? Like
money.
And that's why so many people. That's why so many people don't want live action adaptations of anime, because they're already just so negative about it, because we had those bad examples and bad adaptations of the past. Because we've had maybe 2 good adaptations that people tend to regard that are made in North America.
Okay, what are they in your eyes?
Speed Racer and Battle Angel Alita.
Yep, those are the 2 I would say
are
in terms
of Hollywood, right? In terms of Hollywood.
Yes, in terms of non-Japanese live action or non-Asian live action adaptations of manga or anime.
I've heard people like Guyver, but I'm not sure how much of that is because there's a Mark Hamill cameo. But I've heard positive things. Apparently, it's fun.
Okay.
And good practical effects, I believe.
I didn't know there was a live action Guyver. Wow.
What, is it from like the 90s or something?
Yeah, I think so. But apparently, like, really good special effects.
I'm aware of it, but you're right, I've never seen it. Okay. So that's one little angle. But my guess is, Jane Austen purists would probably get uptight about any Pride or Prejudice adaptation to come. And that has already happened and is to come. Sherlock Holmes has been adapted, modernized, redone, reimagined in many different forms, and especially in the last 15 years, or 10 years more like it. Elementary, Miss Sherlock. So I thought those were a little bit of, I found those fascinating. Is anime still a sacred cow in that sense?
I mean, I hope not.
Fandom. To fandom, I think it is, personally.
I think
especially with the reaction to this.
It's multiple layers of sacred cows. I mean, there's still a pretty strong contingent out there who despise the idea of English dubs, not to mention a Western like adaptation. I've seen people call English dubs a form of racism, which is an interesting discussion. I don't agree with it, but I think it's an interesting, at least, talk potentially. But if we're still having very fierce sub versus dub debates, I think that there is this weird sense of almost divinity in different anime series.
I think it's another layer. Like we've talked about translations in the Pandemic series. And this is essentially, I think, an extension of it to me. And the sub-dub debate is another extension of it. Like, there's a lot of debates about the internationalization, so to speak, of anime.
Yeah, and that goes back to people having concerns over international partnerships with different anime series, or even anime series being completely made in Japan but with an international audience in mind. It's so many layers of the purity of anime, which makes my skin crawl a little bit using that term. But
yeah, I have trouble. I have trouble getting myself to say that, and you've probably heard me stop short of saying that in the past, because it's such a tough term to use and a problematic term to use for me.
I mean, people are using it though, or at least implying that kind of of opinion, despite the fact that even Japanese anime has at times been animated in South Korea. So I'm not sure. Like if you look at the credits of a lot of Japanese anime, there's a lot of South Korean or Korean names in there, and not all of them are living directly in Japan, I'm sure.
Yeah, so that argument has become problematic in recent years, depending on your criteria. So, well, I mean, we can have this. We can talk on ad nauseum, right? We've already talked about it in the past. We're talking about it again now.
Well, I think it's sort of natural to talk about it because if we're looking at the Cowboy Bebop live action Netflix series, despite the fact that there is I don't want to say a lot, but I'd say significant involvement from the creator and from Japan. If you look at the music as well, and I'm sure other aspects of the production, it's still you know um, a Western cast, right? Like
And a
there's
by and large Western production.
yeah.
Um,
But is that all it takes? If this exact same duplicate copy of Cowboy Bebop were to be made in Japan with the same Western cast, but a Japanese production company shot in Japan on Japanese sound studios, would then that make it okay? Like, would then that people be like, oh no, it was shot in Japan, therefore it's good? I mean, is that all it takes?
I think it's
probably
the
not.
cast. Yeah.
I'm not totally sure. Look, just going back a little bit, just to reel back. Somebody double check this for me, or we can do this in the near future for when we come back to this subject again, when James is back, probably. Shinichiro Watanabe, I don't think was involved from the outset. He came on a little bit later on, probably in that, from what I've read anyway, in that lull, then that sabbatical in the time John Cho was recovering from his, I think it was his ACL tear. So there was that 8-month period between the initial shooting and then when they continued. Remember, he injured himself early, and then production was stopped for at least 8 months. I think 9 months. And I think during that time, Watanabe came back on board to become a consultant. So a lot had already probably been determined, or a fair amount had already been determined by that point. Maybe not, because they did have that 8 months. So I think that's one part of the layer there. I think that might be worth mentioning, and people will want to speculate about.
So I haven't read like actual critic reviews. What are the main complaints that people are having with the series?
Well, where do you want to start with that one? I mean, it just
Like I'm curious like what are people complaining about? I mean, I guess spoilers to my thoughts on the series, but out of the first 3, I don't have a whole lot of huge complaints. Like I'm really curious like what are people so mad about? Like
I think
the first episode, the pacing is weird because you have a aside from that first scene that we mentioned, we have a 24-minute episode that stretched out to almost 50. That's a little bit weird, but like aside from that, like it's fine. I don't understand. Again, I've seen
I
3
think
out
the
of what is it
criticisms
12.
will always seem to center around where the comparison to the source material.
Like are people upset that it's not 1-to-1, or are people upset that it's too close to 1-to-1?
See,
I
that's
mean,
the weird part. I'm wondering that too. You're right.
Because
Mo.
like with that, we'll get to it, I'm sure. With the Ed scene, I've seen a lot of complaints with it's too 1-to-1, but I haven't seen like there's the first episode has a parallel plot, but like I think it's different enough so far.
I
I
think
think
people just.
I'll let Mo go first, and then we'll go with Kevin.
I was just gonna say, I think people are generally not too disappointed with the cast themselves. John Cho does, as best a job as you could do. I really liked Mustafa's performance as Jet. He really embodies the character really well. Faye,
You know,
she was, she's okay. What more could you ask? What more could you ask for? But I think people just don't like the fact that it's different. That it didn't. What is it? It didn't have the soulfulness of the original, which I still find hilarious because like it's so similar. Like it's not it's any more similar, and it would have been a 1-to-1 retake, right? It's just
You know how I feel about that.
Yeah.
By and large.
I don't know. I don't know about that because like the third episode is almost completely original unless they stitch things from later on in the series that I haven't watched and merged it with the Ein episode. Like that was a different plot.
It was a different take on it, yeah. It was a different like that's the Hakeem episode and where they introduced Ed. I mean Ein. And they did something completely different with that introduction. Completely different.
I'm just surprised people weren't more outraged about a white person doing blackface.
Yeah, that's true too. I mean, that's really interesting how they handled that. And the funny part is there's criticisms about how it took away how it lacks the soul of the original. That seems to be the general feel, or that's from the reviews I've read. One guy has gone as far as saying they should never ever try to adapt it. We should take a step back from ever trying to adapt an anime, which I don't think will happen.
I call bullshit on that.
I don't like thoughts like that.
I don't know if he directed it at Netflix or in general, but go ahead, Kevin.
That kind of mindset just means that you would never really be inclined to give it a chance in the first place.
I think that's what's hurt it all the way through. People were so determined to hate it, and they are finding reasons to hate it.
But I agree with Kevin. I think if you're so predisposed to think that, you should never try to adapt an anime, then you're going to go into it and just find more negatives than maybe an average viewer would. Like, I think that people who haven't seen the anime might legitimately enjoy the series, at least again from the first episode's impression.
Well, it's also a gateway to possibly seeing the anime, just because Netflix now has it. Mm-hmm. But
I was just gonna say, yeah, it's like hating something before it comes out. Already having a negative mindset about it. I mean, the point of an adaptation, the point of something being remade or reimagined, isn't so much that like the old viewers, but like the new generation, the new viewers, right? I mean, it's someone's new interpretation of it, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean that's always been my argument, is to say when you adapt something, whoever is in charge of that adaptation, they give their interpretations of whatever material if it's come from a previously published material. They get to pick and choose what they found important and then play with it a little bit. And I found that fascinating. And it gives us another angle on the characters.
Yeah, like for example, Jet has a family, which I don't think was a part of the original.
That's completely new.
Yeah, and I think that works. Like that, at least in that third episode, it gave an interesting arc. It added humor, it added drama, it added some warmth to that character. I mean, he had warmth before, but it's establishing this as a different interpretation of the character, and there's certainly lots of commonalities. Like I think that the core sort of form of that character is still there from what I've seen of the original anime, which is about the same amount of episodes, but it's different, which I think is cool.
Yeah, just for reference, Jet never had a daughter and didn't have an estranged wife. He does, which is the case in the live action. And on top of that, that ex-wife is now married to his ex-partner as a cop.
Which I like that dynamic. That's a cool dynamic.
That's, I think, like you root for Jet
more,
even more,
yeah,
because the ex-partner comes across as really a jerk.
Oh yeah, Chalmers is not a good guy.
No, because he's already screwed him out in many respects. Within these 3 episodes, you'll know how much he screws him, right? So that adds another layer. To me, what I found interesting about John Cho, and this is the interesting part, people criticized the choices of John Cho and Daniela Pineda as Spike and Faye, respectively. Now, we haven't really had a chance to really see Faye yet.
Not yet, but from what I saw of John performance as Spike, I mean, it's like he's doing literally the best he can. I don't know who else they could have gotten in that role that would have done a better job. Like he
I'm I find I have a like it's different but not critical. It depends on what part of Spike you want to start to portray too. I mean, there is that very interesting facade that he puts up in the anime. That really laid back, you know, that really laid back guy, but as the series knows, as we all start to know, he has that tortured past, which he's seemingly really covers up really well in the anime. But that is a really hard thing to cover up if you've been so through that type of trauma. And in many respects, to me, John Cho, in his portrayal of Spike, shows a few more of those visible scars of that experience, which I found pretty good. And remember, and this is another key part of one of the differences. Vicious and Julia appear to be very much more involved in the episode to episode plot of the series to this point. We're seeing them a lot more, like right from the get go. From the first episode, we see the references to Vicious and Julia, and they make their appearances really fast. Whereas in the anime, it took them a couple episodes to show Vicious first, and
I like
then
I like
the revelation that Julia is alive, which Spike didn't know. He already knows by this point that
right.
Julia is still there.
Right. I like the portrayal of Spike of Vicious. The actor looked just like Oscar Isaac.
Mm-hmm.
So the entire time going, hey, Oscar Isaac is in this, but apparently he's not. Just a dude that looks just like him.
But that I mean that's where I'm finding it all. So far so good, really. I mean, as I said, the comparisons are not totally fair. They're going to be there, and we're going to make the comparisons too. But your enjoyment of one of the live action shouldn't really be affected by how you feel about the anime too. I mean, that's my own view on it. But I get it. I get the idea that the anime is better, or probably could be better than the live action. But as I said, like for me, I'm enjoying watching the live action, regardless of its flaws.
I feel that I think there are flaws there, but every time I think about a flaw that I notice, I'm still kind of impressed. Like as I was mentioning to Mo a while ago, one of the things that stood out to me, having never seen the Cowboy Bebop anime before, was just how beautiful the hand drawn backgrounds and world building is. Um, and when I saw that, I instantly thought, oh no, the live action is never going to be able to do this level of world design, of set design, of background details. Like it's artful, it's detailed. There are so many little pieces of detail in the signs and the objects. And I'm like, how much Netflix doesn't have the kind of budget to recreate this. Like I was, horrified. Well, not horrified, but like, I figured it's not going to happen. After seeing the Netflix series, it didn't happen, but it was still better than I expected, and I'm kind of impressed with the world building and the background details and all the signs, like in that brothel district and the attempts in the kind of old west town, and all the space paraphernalia, both in space and on the ships. Like it's not great, but it's way better than I thought. It has a few little moments of seeming cheap, but for the most part, I thought that they did a pretty good job with what they probably had available to them.
The cheap line I thought was you just brought up. I thought was an interesting word because I get the feeling that'll be part of the criticisms. And I'm glad you brought it up because I think last week you kind of expressed a similar thinking.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that stood out to me was in the original anime how excited and like entertained I was by the commercial for the cowboy bounty hunter thing, because I
Yes.
wasn't super expecting actually like cowboy imagery in the show. I thought it was just going to be oh, that's the name of the show because they're bounty hunters. But no, here's this like really stereotypical cowboy cowgirl advertising the bounty hunters, and I'm like, oh, this is fun. This is a cool little, again, I love world building, and I love that piece of like, oh, this is cool. This is something that all the bounty hunters are going to be watching in the show. In the live action series version of it, it seems like an awkward, like what do you call that when it's like a local regional, you know, show that,
Public
yeah,
access,
public broadcasting.
like Wayne's
Um,
World.
well, like yeah, like a
Wayne's World.
local broadcast type of thing, and it's like this is I don't like this as much, but it's still kind of like, because it's so bad, I could see it as like a piece of bad media. Like they're not going to put a lot of money into filming that kind of thing if this was a real world, and I'm not sure if I'm making excuses for it. Like I'm not sure if like and that's the weird thing. I can't tell if it was intentionally bad or if that little clip just was awkward and bad.
Well, I certainly saw it as at least a shout out to the idea of bringing that.
Yeah, it's like they wanted to add as much from the anime as they could. Like in the first episode with the three old people, just sitting around like they did in the
New
anime.
Tijuana, right? New Tijuana.
Exactly. They had the hat on, the exact same hat, right? The red eye scene was pretty cool. Like it's like they're trying super duper hard, right, with all the set design. There's a lot of effort that went into it, but it just isn't there. It's like the uncanny valley effect kind of situation, but like it's a live action, and it's just like it's so close that it's just kind of odd, like a facsimile of a real thing, and you're just not feeling it as much, I guess. But like, what more could you have asked for?
So that's the thing, and that's why I think I like the third episode so much, because that entire subplot with the doll, because Jet didn't have a family, that entire first half of the episode was completely original, and even everything with the dogs was completely original. Like I don't think Ein is a mysterious data dog. Like he might be based off of the weird crate he came out of, but like that's not part of that opening plot anymore. Like it's a pretty serious deviation, even more so than just Faye shows up in the first episode.
For like 5
um
minutes.
yeah, so like, and uh, what was the second episode? It's not in my
It's
memory that well.
Teddy
it's
Bomber.
it's funny that I watched the second episode literally 3 hours ago, and I also forgot what it's about.
No, but it's the Teddy Bomber, right?
So was
And
that in
and
the anime?
the thing is that I haven't gotten that far into like that's well into the anime.
Okay,
Teddy
but it is an anime episode though.
It is an anime episode. It's just
Okay,
the thing is that's post ed.
interesting.
That's a
Okay.
post ed episode, right? And I know I know the talk is also about ed. I haven't gotten there yet either. So in the live action,
So like,
Oh,
with putting an episode from the end or near the end or near the middle to the beginning, and with the third episode, I'm gonna call the third episode almost completely original. Like I think it's like 5 or 10% connected to the original Ein introduction episode, because it's not like they were chasing Ein around in this new one. And like there were similar characters, but even like the technology used for the disguise, like I think in the original it was just a regular disguise. Like it's
I
completely
never
original.
I don't recall a disguise. That's the thing.
I think there was like it wasn't a very complicated one. Um But
She had like a cloak on or something, right? A
yeah, like
poncho.
something like that, or sunglasses, or a different haircut, or something like that, compared to his bounty photo. Um, but like, I'm really curious to hear how different the rest of the series is, because they're obviously weaving in plot that I don't know when it shows up in the original anime, but was later on and probably more focused on near the end, because that will hook the Netflix binge watch crowd, right? If they kept it episodic like the original, at least the beginning of the anime, you're not going to have that through line of people wanting to watch, 5 episodes of Cowboy Bebop in a row, which is what Netflix probably wants for some reason. I don't know exactly how they make money. Um,
No, that's a fair statement. That's a fair statement because it's about the binge.
yeah, so like, you're not going to have that episodic flair, which I wonder if how much of that is the style that's missing that people are talking about.
Maybe,
Because I don't know
maybe
how smooth the integration of the plot was in the original.
because it was episodic in the original anime, and it was bounty of the week in many respects. Whereas the bounties right now seem to be an afterthought to me, anyway. Because as I said, Vicious and Julia figure a lot more into the plots of the episodes, and you're going to learn. And I've already noticed there's a different dynamic when it involving Vicious specifically, because when he's introduced in the series in the anime, he seems to very much be the top guy at the in the syndicate at that point. But in the live action, he's still answering to people, and I'm wondering how that's ultimately going to play out later on. Okay, sorry, Mo. I know you had your hand up for, earlier. Is there
Oh,
something like? Is there something else we passed that you want to express? Because
I enjoyed the one-liners. A lot of funny one-liners.
between the between
Spike and Jet, yeah.
and Jet, no, I think there's going to be a lot more focus. This is another thing that I could see happening. A lot more is going to be given to the relationship between the three main characters, between Spike, Jet, and ultimately Faye. I think we're going to see a lot more of that interplay than we ever did in the anime.
I like the situational aspect of it. There's a scene in the second episode where they're at that construction site, and the cop the construction guy has a good line about good cop versus bad cop routine.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the opening fight sequence, Spike has a good line about taking a shit in the middle of a heist, which I will say that scene was
But,
hilarious.
but that line also was in the movie.
True.
That exact concept, right? As I
Yeah.
said, this is it's a take on the movie's opening as well.
I do
Oh.
really like Spike and Jet's dynamic, but because of the plot that they've weaved in already, it's a little bit awkward seeing the ticking time bomb of the awkward Disney moment that is now coming. Which I would have
Oh yeah, okay.
maybe preferred not to know about, because like I just know, like, okay, how many episodes is it going to be until Jet finds out about Spike's past, and it's like, oh yeah, that's going to come, and how many either minutes or episodes are they going to be fighting, and they're going
See,
to build up their fun relationship. They're going to have even closer moments in the next 2 episodes, and then it'll all come crashing down.
and that's interesting because in I know not all of us have rewatched the have finished the anime series. I'm most of it's blurry to me, even though I'm rewatching it, and I'm only at episode 11. Mo, Geoff, you haven't seen it all the way through. As far as I remember, I don't know how much Jet will ultimately find out about that past in the anime.
Hmm.
Anyway, that's worth noting, right? By the way,
I'm not
but
sure
you're
the
right. There's
Western directors and writers are going to be able to resist the awkward Disney moment. It's a favorite.
no, so but yeah, it seems like it could collide. I mean, I don't know yet, but there's the potential that it could collide. And that'll add that adds to it. And as I said, central is the relationship. As far as I could tell, Spike and Jet's relationship will be important throughout this series. So it would be interesting to me how much Jet ultimately finds out about the Syndicate in Spike. And okay, other little aspects that'll come up in the. I'm sorry, how much I'm blowing to you guys on this. The bar owner depicted in the.
Yeah, they switched it up for her too. That was pretty cool.
Switched it up for her. I thought because Anna, or Anastasia, as she is known in the anime, she's a very minor character in the anime, but she's going to play a bigger role here. And she's imagined as like in the anime, she's depicted as like a convenience store owner. But as I said, she's going to be way more important to here.
I like the sushi cart guy. He's pretty cool.
That's who I don't recognize from the anime.
What can I get for 7 wuons? A tiny sliver.
Yeah, just a sliver. Just a sliver of.
If we're talking about like random characters, does that bounty hunter show pop up at all?
Yes, that's what we were just talking about.
Yeah, it's pretty cringy, but
I thought you guys were talking about something else. Okay,
that's the awkwardness. That's the awkwardness that Geoff just talked about.
Oh, okay.
Big Shots is depicted in there, and yeah,
like fairly like costume wise accurately.
Yeah, that's as fair. That's pretty 1-to-1 actually.
So it's a blonde chick and a black guy.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's cool.
Yeah. With a very revealing yeah. Anyway. Save a word. Can I save a word for Daniela Pineda to this point? I do want to acknowledge her because of all the criticism of how much she doesn't look like Faye. But I think she has the sass, the personality down to this point. At least in the one episode we saw her depicted.
Yeah, she sounded just like her. It was a good performance. We need to see more, right? Plus, I mean, the internet's gonna be the internet. There's nothing they can do about having her not look like Faye, because I don't think anyone can look like Faye unless it's like a CGI person. But even then,
they can end up looking like Faye, but can they be functional? Can they pull off the action scenes like that?
I think appearance-wise, she's fine. Like, and I've said this before, I never was a big fan of Faye's outfit in the anime anyway, so I was happy with the costume change.
Yeah, well, my line was, well, if you want to, like, I think the people who are upset with how Faye looks were probably just as upset as what happened to Tifa in Final Fantasy, the remake. I think I'm pretty sure I'm pretty sure it's a lot of the same crowd.
Yeah,
tell me
I can
I'm
imagine
wrong.
that.
Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong. Look me straight in the eye and tell me that I'm wrong on that.
Were people were really that mad about Faye's like slight costume change? Really?
Well, I think of it as a little bit more of a change, but yeah, a lot of people were.
Well, did they reduce the size of her breasts a little bit or something? Like, I don't know what else they could do otherwise.
Oh, for starters, yes, I think so. But
oh wow,
I mean, put the two pictures side by side again. That all said, there was a, and Pineda herself has often talked about it as well. But how much has changed in 20 years?
I have a lot of both sympathy and respect for her. Like, considering, this character who, I've never seen Cowboy Bebop prior to the last, couple months, but I still knew the name and general design of Faye Valentine. Like, it's one of those things that it's one of those characters that shows up in those compilation AMVs that were popular in the 2000s. Like, it was,
yes, it was.
She would show up on lists of, cool or attractive characters or whatever. Like, she was part of the anime, or I guess she is part of the anime zeitgeist. And no one was going to escape criticism from that role. it's, sexism primarily, but it's also the iconic, level of that character.
No, yeah, that probably the more so. It applies, I think, to Spike, but more so with her. You're right. What else is there I want to add to this, though? Right now, there is too much else to add because, as I said, we've only seen 3 episodes, and if people want spoilers, they can certainly look on Twitter.
I feel like at some point in time, Netflix is going to have to switch up their model and go week to week with things like this, because everyone's going to watch this weekend. It's going to get a lot of talk for the next week, maybe the next month, and then dead silence. Will this show get picked up for a second season? I mean, probably, maybe. Who knows? I feel like if this was like, here's the first 3 episodes, and then wait a week for the next episode, and so forth and so forth, maybe people would be less inclined to hate on it. Maybe more people would watch it. But
there'd be more patience, right? Like you'd have to wait before making that full judgment, so that initial negativity wouldn't be pouring out of every hole on Twitter.
exactly.
And there are indications that Netflix is starting to do that, because I believe with Blue Period, they are doing week to week.
I think I've always been of the impression part of it is, okay, is there an existing broadcast deal for that series? Because we had that, I know that started with Riverdale.
Right. And
I know weekly, but it was also airing on CW.
Exactly, it's a CW show. But there's that new show, Arcane, based on League of Legends. That's going week to week, and people are loving that show. That show is getting a lot of love. Amazon does this regularly with their new shows, where they go week to week.
Oh yeah, well, I think it was like, I think The Boys was, they put out the first 3 episodes and then became week to week for the rest.
And then it gets the love, it gets the appreciation, not the instant negative feedback. It's like Netflix either, I think it's because they're tied into that binge model where they have to release everything at once. But the drawback is the negativity. If this was week to week, we might not have gotten as much negativity.
And I really like that front loading of 2 to 3 episodes and then week to week. Like I think that's a great compromise, because people usually say give a show 3 episodes, so it gives people that 3 episodes if they want, but it also gives people who are excited a big nice chunk of episodes to satiate the excitement.
Plus money. I mean, if you're Netflix and you want more subscribers, take a show that's kind of popular, stretch it out to 3 months. You just made yourself a 3-month subscriber, right?
I think that'll happen to me when the next season of Picard happens on Crave. Okay, so
really quickly, I did want to mention, because we're talking about Netflix and distribution methods, I thought it would be interesting to point out that I had to really search for Cowboy Bebop in order to find it. Starting to watch it yesterday. The animated series was there. The Arcane League of Legends show was there. Do you want to rewatch Voyager for the 7th time was there. But, the Cowboy Bebop, I had to go into the search function.
As in the live action?
The live action Cowboy Bebop. I had to go into the search function. I scrolled through all of Netflix's ribbons of suggested shows, and it wasn't on any of them for me.
Search. Yeah, that's kind of weird. And I'll bet. And you're right. And there's an article about, well, the movie's there too. Hello, the movie's there. It's kind of important in the canon as well.
Hey, Geoff, let me ask you: in your search, how often did Red Notice come up?
I don't think it did.
Really?
At least I didn't notice it.
Okay, because I've been getting that pumped to me a lot. Netflix has been wanting me to watch that movie pretty hardcore.
Anyway, okay, so what is your bottom line review on the Cowboy Bebop live action overall? You like it, hate it? Is there some criticism you have of it?
I'm conflicted because I like the first 3 episodes, enough. I want to see how it plays out. But at the same time, like, some of the feedback that I'm hearing is that people should boycott this Netflix show because it will teach them a lesson and not to create stuff like this anymore. But I'm like, it's not that bad, guys.
That makes me want to watch it more.
Well, yeah, way to go. If like you're saying, you're advertising it as the NASCAR crash, but sometimes that's what people like about watching NASCAR, if it is to be that. Geoff?
I'm liking it. I'm very curious about how my plan right now is to watch the live action and then go into the animated series, like the rest of it afterwards. Because, regardless of me liking the live action Cowboy Bebop, I think it's universally agreed that the animated series is the superior product. So, I don't want to watch that superior product and then go to this version. Like, because I'm enjoying it, I don't want that tainted as much as possible. So I'm gonna go through the rest of at least what's here on the first season or whatever you call it. Um, I I do want to. It's not part of the first 3 episodes, but going on Twitter, there was a tweet that said, "Don't watch Cowboy Bebop," and it was the scene with Ed.
Yep, I saw that. That's the same thing that I got, and
And
that's
wow,
yep.
I don't
Yeah.
know how this show is gonna go to that. Like it seemed like a joke, and all the tweet replies were a lot of them were like, "This isn't real. No way, this is real."
I saw the same thing, and I got the same comments, and that's kind of what made me kind of worried, thinking that, like, I don't know, man, I got to watch it first to make sure. But damn, if that's, I
And
don't
and a,
know.
a great comment with that scene is, people. One tweet I saw was like, "What happened?" And there was a reply to that, and it said something along the lines of, "They tried to make a one-to-one adaptation of Ed's character in live action," and which is interesting because I don't think they've done that with any of the 3/4 if you count Ein primary characters. I can understand, like, with that, even with knowing very little about the character of Ed, I can understand the move to want to do that. But wow, like, there are so many jokes. Like, there's people putting the WB logo in the corner, or like the 4Kids logo in the corner. People saying it seems like a weird commercial for, like, don't do drugs, or any number of different advertisements. The best one I saw was like a quote that said, it's 2003, you're at an anime convention and someone with no boundaries approaches you. Um, yeah, like, I really hope they tone it down, because aside from, minor criticism of that I've seen of seemingly casting the character white. I mean, she could have, or they/she could have been tanned in the original. Um, they got a non-binary actor to play Ed. Great. Costume, little bit weird, but it's an eccentric character, so fine. But man, the editing, the acting, the direction, wow, it was intense. It was a moment. I couldn't believe what I was watching.
Okay, but you'll continue. Kevin, okay, do you want to say something about whether or not you're going to watch, or your thoughts before I give mine?
So first of all, I was looking up Cowboy Bebop criticism on Twitter, and I think I did see a couple of those shots of Ed actually, and I was also thinking like, wait, is this really from the show? It was funny how Geoff brought that up, but I think for me, I do want to give it a shot. It's just that I'm just so not inclined to watching anime as of late, or much of anything as of late that's not on YouTube. But now that I'm like living by myself, I am inclined to watch something while I eat dinner now. So that would likely be the best chance for me to
Okay.
watch it.
Oh, why not? Why not?
So I just put something in the chat if you guys want to take a look real quick.
I will see it. I guess after the taping.
Is it the Gal Times one or the Your Tango one? Oh, it's the Gal Times one.
It's Gal Times. Okay. First of all, the takeaway I'm getting from all what you're saying is I shouldn't go on Twitter for a few days. That's the first thing.
It depends on your feed.
I'd recommend never going on Twitter, but then again,
yes. Yeah, well, we have plenty of reasons to want to do that. Okay, first, well, to Jeff's point, I am watching the anime at the same time as I'm watching the live action. I don't know if I should right now, but the whole idea for me in watching the live action is to compare it to the anime and ultimately separate them and see if and try to enjoy the live action as a product on its own. It's just that yes, it's inevitable it'll be compared to the anime, and I agree. Probably the anime is the superior product, but and you've hung around me long enough, and anybody who's listened to this show long enough, especially during the pandemic series, knows I am giving this a chance. And should there be a second season, I will give this a chance because I just have fun playing the comparisons. I have fun seeing what others envisioned and how it might be different. One thing we won't get to see, and I hinted I want to mention this to Geoff and Mo. For as much as they mention that the original Japanese voices came back to do the Japanese dub of this live action series, that Japanese language track is not available in North America. Other languages, French, Spanish, yes. I think German too. But no Japanese audio in the at least in the North American Netflix. Or at least Netflix Canada. So whoever's listening to this, let me know where you are. And if you get to hear the Japanese language version of this live action dub. And get to hear Megumi Hayashibara and what's Alimony guy's name? Yamadira. And for reference, if it does appear, or if and when Ed does appear, Aoi Tada, that's her name. That was the actress who played her, who's not in the business anymore, who's just a singer. Will she return to play Ed going forward? Because it sounds like Ed is at least acknowledged, and should there be a second season, we'll see Ed more fleshed out.
Yeah, that's weird. I mean, how for there not to be a second season of the show would mean that it'd have to do surprisingly bad with Netflix, right?
Yeah, surprisingly. Well, it's surprisingly being panned, but there's eyeballs without a doubt.
My other question would be, well, we don't know for sure, I guess, because none of us have finished the series, but my question is if they did fully complete the whole Spike Vicious storyline in this adaptation.
That's weird because I mean they might, because they it's that relationship starts out pretty early, right? I mean, they might finish it in 10 episodes.
But then, okay, wait. So has everybody watched the anime?
I haven't finished it.
Yeah,
okay.
I remember how it ends. I do remember how it ends. So I do remember how it ends.
So that's my question: is how does season 2 even work then?
Well, let's see. Let me compare the two then. Right, I haven't gotten all to. I guess that'll be after we finish, or at least after I finish watching the 10 episodes of this live action, and then maybe finish up the anime so I have some memories.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be something if Netflix came out on Monday and was like, "Hey guys, we made a mistake. No season 2. We're canceling Cowboy Bebop. That's it. It's over."
It could happen.
It could.
It really could happen. And I think, that could be a little bit sad because I'd like to see where they're going with this too, right? And oh yeah, and all of this in this last 55 minutes that we've been talking, we did not bring up the music at all.
Oh
Anything
yeah,
you want to say about that?
the music was good.
Like some people are saying it sounds like a bad cover, but it's the same people.
You're
Even the
skewing into Bill Cosby a little bit.
Seatbelts.
Pudding pops.
Wait, were the seatbelts actually performing at all in the live action adaptation?
Seatbelts were reunited for this.
Oh wow! Like I know Yoko Kanno is involved, but
Yoko Kanno reunited seatbelts for this. So
same.
Wait, did I just do? What were you guys laughing at? Oh,
your voice kind of skewed into Bill Cosby-esque mannerisms.
Wow. Okay, but like, yeah, there's little tweaks done. It sounded like there's a few tweaks done. To the music.
It's a different vein, but that reminds me of when people criticized the original Hellsing dub for sounding like fake British people, but then New Generation Pictures actually did bring on board British voice actors.
Wait, are you sure they're British? How British were they?
They were born and raised in the United Kingdom.
How far back does their lineage go?
Oh God.
I think people just sometimes don't realize that there are like 12 accents in like England alone.
Anyway, so like there's that criticism of the music, and I'll give a little anecdote. And this is away from anime. About almost 10 years ago, when the National Hockey League switched jersey providers to Reebok, the teams also changed the templates by which they made their hockey uniforms. In the case of the San Jose Sharks, they sort of tweaked their logo on top of it, and they consulted the original artist behind their logo to just do a new tweak in celebration of the new template. And he redid the logo only slightly, depicting the shark as a little bit more aggressive in chomping down on the hockey stick. And another little anecdote I can add is, once again, George Lucas as well. We often make references to George Lucas and how many times he tweaked up Star Wars in its various incarnations. Like, especially as it was as the original trilogy was remastered a couple times over. He played with it a few times.
Yeah, he made what's his face shoot first, right?
Right. Well, yeah, okay, I get it.
McClunky.
But then again, like people criticized. I know didn't care for it sometimes, but this is the original artist saying, "Okay, what would you change now?"
Clearly, the original artist was wrong, and the audience is correct, right?
Then again, that leads to some of that discussion we had in a previous episode. At a point, fans get so gung-ho, get so militaristic. They're quite fine if a corporation takes the creative rights away from the creator, which has been known to happen, of course.
I'd like all of the rights taken away from J.K. Rowling.
See? I know, there's many reasons there. But I mean, we can discuss the reasoning. But much of the reasoning is sometimes to lengthen a property instead of end it. Okay, sorry, Mo.
Oh no, I was just going to touch point on that J.K. Rowling situation, which is funny that it's been 20 years and they're not inviting her back for the reunion, which is hilarious.
Well, there's that too.
Oh wow.
Anyway, there's some final thoughts that I should add. But bottom line is, I know when the full roundtable reconvenes, when James returns, we would have seen more. Maybe we'd have finished the live action, and I know we can say a lot more by that point. And then we can ask for James's opinion as well, because he was just busy. Work is a thing, right? But that's about it. Oh, and the other thing was, and just as a final aside before we end tonight, this was also a maiden voyage because some of us changed our equipment for this recording.
Yeah, Mike, why don't you let the studio audience let us know how much they enjoy this taping of ours?
Well, what do you want me to say? First of all,
let's hear from them a little bit, right? I'm pretty sure they're excited to let us know that they're excited, right?
well, okay.
How about a round of applause, people?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, nothing here.
No,
but
I think Mo was trying to trigger you to use one of your fancy new buttons.
Yeah, I know. I switched to a Rodecaster Pro this week, and Kevin now owns the Yeti mic or is in possession of the Yeti mic that I've been using throughout the run of the pandemic series. And Kevin sounds a lot better. I forgot what button's what on this, by the way. So I'm not gonna press any buttons on this right now. And by the time we reconvene, probably the buttons will be reprogrammed. But yeah, you want me to try and get some cheering here, right? Some applause. But I just don't know what button's what right now. So I'm not going to try it. But I think, as I said, maiden voyage for the Rodecaster Pro just to try it out for the first time. I think it passed. Hooked up one of the traditional podcast mics that we've always used into this, and that'll be my setup when we do the show remotely. And then I have to take it apart to some degree, so that for when we do the show in person again, right? But we know where we're going. And this will figure prominently into what we'll do in the future online. So, yes, now that at this point we will ask to hear from the audience. So that's our part of the conversation concerning the Cowboy Bebop live action. So, what do you guys all have to say? Anybody listening out there? Why don't you join in on the conversation? You can email us oldschoolanime@gmail.com. We're on Twitter and Instagram right now, on the socials @Anime Roundtable. And of course, there's the archive of episodes. AnimeRoundtable.com is our website.
The archive is good, guys. Check it out. Episode 37 was pretty good. Check it out.
Oh, what did we do in episode 37?
I don't know. Adam was being funny.
Well, that's in version 1, way back, but it's there. It's there. I guess there's other angles I know we'll want to talk about concerning the Cowboy Bebop live action, and I'm still gathering other thoughts, and we might talk to other people on that. And I hope people at least keep an open mind and look forward to those conversations whenever we are finally able to get around to them. I'll tell you guys more about them a bit later on, after I hit the stop button. Yeah, that's right. Be in the audience. Anyway, that's it. So we told you where you are, but there's some food for thought for at least if you are considering watching the Cowboy Bebop live action. There's our thoughts, at least through 3 episodes, about a third of the series, and we'll give you more thoughts, I guess, next week when episode 54 of the Anime Roundtable reconvenes. But thanks for listening to this one.